3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Welcome to ASD Market Week's YouTube series, Retail Revelations Inside the Deal. This is your all-access pass to the world of buying and selling in the retail space. We're getting candid and having real conversations on what it takes to get the deal done. This is Retail Revelations Inside the Deal. Hello and welcome to Retail Revelations Inside the Deal. I'm your host, Stephanie Beringhele, and joining us today we have a treat, very well known within the retail space. Pleasure to welcome Danny Kole, owner of Kole Imports and Closeouts. Danny, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Stephanie. Good to see you.
And see me again. You are another repeat offender. You were so good. We had to bring back.
Well, you know what? It's I'm an acquired taste, so I'm glad that I was asked back.
Well, this is a special episode. So we created this podcast because we really wanted to dig into the deals and really show what's happening behind the scenes within the retail space. And I'm sure you've been living and breathing a changing calendar day after day. So why don't we just dig in? There's been tariffs, there's been shipping concerns. What's going on the wholesale side?
Yeah, well, I'd say I think it's one of those examples where the sky is brightest after the storm. And we certainly have gone through a lot over the last few months. It has not been easy. I'd like to make a joke that I had black hair 3 months ago, but that wouldn't be accurate. But I have felt like that on certain days. It's definitely been a battle. It's been challenging. But I've always really believed that through a lot of the toughest challenges come the most opportunities. So it's forced us to really look at everything that we do and try to be a little sharper in really every area of our business. And that's really what we've been focusing on. You've probably heard me say before, control the controllables. And I'm a big believer in that. We speak about that a lot here. I think almost everybody in our company has heard those words, and a lot of people really try to run their day by those words because that's really all we can do. So, from our perspective, we've been hyper-focused on looking for better deals, looking for the right deals. I think the current economic climate is one that the consumer is certainly, not that they don't always pay attention to where they're spending their money, because they do and they should. But I think over this last few months, we've really seen a shift where people are really, really hyper-focused on buying either necessities or great values. They're not just spending just for the sake of spending. So with that in mind, we've got to be extra sharp on the deals that we're finding. We're working extra close on our margins because we want to make sure we're giving the right deal to our customers. We're encouraging our customers to do the same with their customers. I think everybody's got to squeeze a little bit right now, and that's really what we've been focused on.
And you're experts in your craft. You've been around for 40 years. So you're no stranger to change and navigating the scene. So I think what I love about your team in particular is that you not only supply goods for the larger corporations, but also the independents. So as we head into Q3 and Q4, I want to see what that looks like. What are you recommending to you retailers so that they can manage the cost that they can while also optimizing their sales within the retail store?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's a conversation we're having internally and with our customers all the time. And I was telling somebody in one of our meetings here this week a story about Sam Walton. And I think it kind of leads into what you were speaking about the independents. And I read a quote from Sam Walton years ago that he said, the only competition he really has ever been afraid of is the independent operator. And the independent operator could be one store. It could also be 30 stores. And the reason he had that concern was basically their ability to turn on a dime. And over the last few months, that's been more important than ever. Because basically, there were supply chain issues where people were concerned, were they going to have enough toys for fourth quarter? Mm-hmm. Were they going to have enough back to school product in their stores? And if you are a big box retailer that has thousands of stores, no matter how smart you are, you don't have the ability to turn on a dime. Just not realistic. So the independent operators had that ability. And what we've really been pushing people to do is to think outside the box a little bit, do things a little bit differently. So a buyer that maybe normally was really loading up on toys in September, this year they needed to do it in July and August. They need to be doing it at the coming ASD show. And they need to take advantage of deals while they're there. This is not a time to be penny wise and dollar foolish, where you pass a deal for a couple of cents and then you miss out on all that retail sales because you didn't have backpacks in your store or you didn't have dolls in your store. Contrary to some people's beliefs, little girls do deserve more than one doll. Having a good variety in your store is super important. So we've been paying real attention to the closeouts, trying to make sure we're buying the right deals. I had a couple examples to show you, but just as an example, in the back to school genre, like we just received a huge deal of backpacks that retailers can retail for $7.99. If you look at a big box retailer importing backpacks right now, they've got a 50% tariff and duty just before they ever get anywhere. So the odds of someone being able to import backpacks to now retail for $7.99, it just doesn't exist anymore. So when there's a closeout opportunity, really no different than what we're doing, if there's an opportunity there that is a good value, as much as we might want to squeeze the price down a little bit more to have that much better of a deal, right now, it's not that it's not important to have a great deal, but it's more important to have the right merchandise than it's ever been. So, leading into ASD and leading into third and fourth quarter, we feel really great about the recovery we've made on inventory, because we had to stop all of our shipments for 4 to 6 weeks. And then just because you start them again doesn't mean it just happens. You've got to get things going again. So to use the train analogy, once a train stops, it takes a while to start moving at a good speed again. So it's been very similar for us in terms of getting inventory in, but we feel really great that we've been able to really quickly rebound. And between closeouts and between our imports, we're really, really well set up with inventory going into the second half of the year. For any of your listeners that will be at the ASD show, we have 38 booths that are going to be full of deals. And there certainly was a time that I was really concerned. 38 booths is a lot to fill. Was I going to be able to fill my booth up? And I'm comfortable that people are going to be able to walk up and see that there are enough deals, and just from the perspective of staying selective, again, we're really, really focused on the right deals at the right time. So we just got a deal in on all kinds of pen sets. So this is a 60 pack of gel pens. We've probably got it in 5 different color schemes, but these can retail for $6.99 or under for 60 pens. Again, not to be a broken record, but with the current import duties and tariffs, it's not possible. We have branded headphones that can retail for $1.99. Again, it's just not possible. And so we're really paying attention on every deal we're buying to make sure that the value is strong and that it is merchandise people are looking for. So, branded socks, these are 2-pack socks that can retail for under $1.99 for 2 pairs of socks. It's just pricing that doesn't really exist. Brand name hairbrushes for retail for under $2.99. So that's really what our focus is on right now. We've done a really good job of recouping our inventory on key categories for this time of year. We're very well loaded on toys, which was a real challenge. We're well loaded on back to school, which was a real challenge. And then really everything within the gift range for, good value gifts. And we've really been focused right now on a $20 retail and under. At this moment in the gift world. So we have a great range of items that can, gift items for $10, gift item for $20, gift items for $5. And I think that's an area that the consumer is going to be looking for more than usual. And thankfully, we feel like we're in really good shape with that inventory.
So, back to school shopping with my kids in this household is a must. And it's the only thing the kids get so excited about it. It's the one part where they're going, I want to go with grandma and grandpa. And then I got to go with auntie and then mom and dad. And they squeeze us for every dollar that we have. And right now, dollars are short. So when you show a backpack like that, every season my kids get new backpack. It is a necessity. It is something that the kids, again, it's kind of a perk of, we know you have to go back to school, but look at this cool backpack and these cool pens and everything. So the way that you're pricing and you're taking that extra approach of saying this is the right product to put on your shelf so that you can be successful as a retailer, it's more important now than I think ever before.
Yeah, well, without question. And, I'm glad to hear your kids are squeezing the family for everything they can get. I'm proud of them. That's what they should be doing. But, really everything I just showed you, you take a backpack like that, it's easy to spend $25 on a backpack. If you're someone that is really watching your dollars, to be able to spend $9.99 or $7.99 on a backpack, all the things you need with it now can probably happen, and you'd still end up at that $25 total. But now you've got your backpack, you've got your pens, you've got all the things you need heading back to school. And your kids, really, it's no different than most households where, kids want to go back to school and they want to be feeling good about how they look, what they have with them. They don't want to take out a pen that's dried up from the season. I think it's really important for retailers to remember consumers want to buy these things. And if you don't have those things, they're going to look elsewhere. And if you do have them, but you don't have them at the right deal, again, they're going to look elsewhere. So I think it's really important as a wholesaler, starting with us, and then as a retailer, to connect the dots for people. That, you've got to have the right deals in your store. And then there's that, long-term effect when someone comes in and they find good deals for something they really needed. They needed back to school. 2 months later, when they need to buy toys for their nieces and nephews, what do you think they're going to think about? They're going to think about the store that was there for them when they needed something, not the store that they went to and had to go somewhere else.
Okay.
So, and that's again, when I said at the beginning that I think it's so important that people realize that it's not the time to be penny wise, dollar foolish. The retailer's dollar has never been more important to them than it is right now. So from our perspective, even though our margins have dipped, which they have, and I'm not going to lie, I'm not thrilled about that, but that's the role we need to play right now. And if we weren't playing that role, we'd have customers coming to us saying, I can't buy that. That's not going to sell for me. We want our customers to have success with what they buy so that 30 days later, 60 days later, they need to buy more, not so that they're sitting there saying, well, but those prices were so high, I couldn't sell anything. So that's really our mentality when we're looking at every deal.
And I want to go back because you had noted two things that I think are really relevant today. There's been a shift in the buying cycle, and buyers are really cautious, and not just cautious, but I think that they're re-looking at what they're putting into the stores because they want to have shelves that are filled, but again, with the right product. So what kind of big shifts are you seeing with Halloween and Christmas? Have most of the orders already been done, or do you think that it's going to be smaller quantities that are ordered consistently up into those holiday events so that people feel a little bit more comfortable? What do you think in that world?
Well, Halloween, I'd say, was done. Halloween's done pretty early. So I think the jury will be out until next season to see how Halloween did, and what the retail landscape, looks like after it's done. On the Christmas side, I would say it's actually been the opposite for us. I think what I'm seeing, I know what I'm seeing, is that there are people coming in that want to make sure they have goods in their store. And it really goes back to what I was saying before, with the slowdown in shipments, with the 30% additional tariffs, there's a lot of merchandise that people are concerned whether they're going to ever get it or not. So there are going to be consumers in stores looking for Christmas goods. Everybody knows that. So if you have a retail store and you don't have Christmas goods in your store, they're going to go elsewhere. And if they go elsewhere, there's a really high likelihood, I shouldn't say a really high likelihood, there's a possibility they may end up liking that store more than your store, depending on what store they end up in. So it's so important not to lose the customer's faith that they have in you, that you're the right store to go to, because the worst thing a retailer can do is give a customer a reason to go to another store.
Right.
So I think it's so important that, buyers are thinking that way. Time will tell if I'm correct, but my feeling in speaking to a lot of buyers over the last month or two is I think your show is going to be very busy, because I think buyers have connected the dots for the most part, that there is still a shortage of a lot of merchandise. And if I was a retailer, I would absolutely be at that show, making sure that I filled every gap in my store. And back to what you asked a minute ago, this is something I posted on LinkedIn a while ago about, but, for me, when people are being more cautious spending money, whether that's a retailer or whether that's a consumer or a retailer, I feel like I have to offer them more, not less. And I think there's a mistake, a reactionary mistake a lot of people make at times, where they get too cautious and they feel like I've got to be so careful right now. But when people come into retail stores, they want to see a lot. They want to have more reasons to spend their money. So if somebody comes into Stephanie's store and the variety hasn't changed from the last time they were there, they're not going to leave excited. They want to come in and find something that makes them pull their credit card out and buy something. So our perspective in the controllables is we've been buying more aggressively than normal. Without question, we've been buying way more aggressively because we want to be a spot when someone comes in to see our showroom or comes to see us at ASD, they walk away and say, wow, they had a lot of merchandise. They had a lot of good deals. They had a lot of new items. They had a lot of closeouts. And that's really what I would preach to anyone in their own stores heading into third and fourth quarter. Be smart, but don't be cautious. And there's a real big distinction there.
So in the School of Danny deals, I'm going to call you. And I think these are two really important topics. One is for retailers to embrace diversifying their product line, getting a little bit more creative. And then also, to your point, creating a sense of urgency. If I'm a consumer and I go into your store and I see the same things over and over again, I'm not going to put it in my basket. But if I see something fabulous and I go, I only see 2 of these and I've never seen it before, well, woo, that's going in my basket real quick. And then I'll probably find something else. And again, that's how you expand that basket size. And that's where you create the interest. So the 2 items I really want you to discuss are how retailers can embrace diversifying product that still has some synergy with their existing product lines and their consumers, but also embracing closeouts so that they can really optimize that margin building within their storefront. So Danny, School of Danny, teach us this.
I keep thinking of School of Rock as you're saying. I would say in terms of the diversification, I think it's a great point. You've already got people coming into your store. So it's so important to think, what could I sell that lends itself to my store? So as an example, there's certain retail segments that are male oriented, some that are female, more male. So as an example, hardware stores are more male shoppers than female shoppers. So we have a lot of hardware stores that buy from us, and we do sell tools, but very few of them buy any tools from us. They buy tools that are brand name tools for the hardware shopper that's coming in. But what they can buy from us that sells really well is they might buy big rope pet toys. Because while that male shopper is there, that is, whether he's a contractor, whether he's a handyman, whatever he may be, if he sees kind of a cool big rope toy, the male shopper in the hardware store probably has a Rottweiler before a Pomeranian. So the odds are a big rope toy is going to be more desirable. So whether it's a rope toy or whether it's a pair of Bluetooth headphones that are behind the counter, because everybody wears Bluetooth headphones now, it doesn't need to be something that's only shopped for in an electronics store. So if you can look for items that are not, I wouldn't recommend a hardware store decide to put up displays of makeup.
Yeah.
Right? So that's really the distinction, right? Find items that kind of flow into who your shopper is and try to add to that. Because if you do it, for one, you make your customer shopping experience more enjoyable. Maybe they were coming in for hardware, but maybe they go home and they have a toy tool set for their kid and they feel like a hero when they walked in the door, even though they were there to buy something that was kind of mundane. Okay. Or maybe they walk in with that rope toy and give the dog a toy and feel really good about it. But it's an easy add-on to profit and the bottom dollars. And then regarding the closeouts, I guess my answer would be very, very similar, with one other big distinction being that on the closeout side, you have a real easy path to impress customers, one, with brand name goods a lot of times, but two, with great deals that are obvious great deals. So, for example, I held up those Billboard earphones that can retail for $1.99. I can name 10 big retailers those are in for $5. So that's an area that you have the ability to really make a mark. We have a closeout right now on this item, okay? This item right now is in Target for $35, okay? Our customers can retail it for $15 to $20. Okay, these are really big differences that for a consumer to take the time to realize, wow, when I went into that store, I walked out with more for my money. There's real value there. And then on the closeout side, from the retailer's perspective, there's typically also more margin. There is the ability to make better margin and still have really good deals. So I'd say it's twofold, but I think just it's kind of what we do here. We don't have a category we sell. We sell good deals. And, whether it's, we had a deal 2 weeks ago on truckloads of lawn and garden furniture. We've done business for 40 years. We've never sold lawn and garden furniture. And we sold 20 containers of lawn and garden furniture because it was a great deal. So I think knowing kind of who you are and what you are is important, but not to the point that it stops you from looking at opportunities and saying, I've got people that want to buy things. Why should I say to myself, I don't sell headphones? Mm-hmm. If you have people with ears coming into your store, you can sell headphones. So it's a matter of just thinking of what makes sense for your individual business.
The hardware store is such a perfect example because my husband will go, and you're right, he wants name brand tools and he'll spend hours in there, right? I have no interest in going to the tool store. But if he's there, I'm like, hey, can you pick up like a flower pot? Maybe I want to garden, or maybe some toilet paper. And then for him, it's more of an emotional thing where he's helping the household because he's bringing something back. He also usually finds some assortment of candy that he hasn't been able to see elsewhere for the kids and stuff. But now there's that emotional tie where somebody's being satisfied within your storefront. And again, they're finding access to product that they weren't originally going out to purchase, but it caught their eye. And like you said, now they're the hero. They come home and it's, oh, you brought this for me?
100%.
Ooh.
Right. And I don't know this for sure because similar to you, I'm not a huge hardware store shopper. But I will say there was probably a time a long time ago that hardware stores didn't sell flower pots. Mm-hmm. It probably wasn't something they sold. And they probably realized people are coming in and buying garden tools. we should probably have flower pots. Then they probably started selling soil, and then they probably selling garden hose. And I think that's really what I'm saying here is I think looking at your store as a certain type of store, unless that's what your business is, right? But in general, most stores have the ability to diversify, make their store more interesting, and make themselves more of a destination when people are thinking about things. If I was driving by a small hardware store that I knew had some pet toys, I would much rather run into that store than go into Petco. Because I'd rather go into a small store, quickly get what I need, and I'm gone, versus walking into a huge store, and I'm probably getting a better deal on it in that hardware store that I'm getting in that big box retailer.
And that's a key element. So when we talk about when retailers start diversifying their product in a way that makes sense for their consumers to, they have to want it, they have to like it. But also what you're doing, companies like you empower them to control costs, where now they can do maybe a little bit of private label, but then they can do closeouts, which really help them. And then of course, there's always that branded product line that when prices go up, you either decide that you're going to carry it or not. And if you don't have some of those brand names, consumers aren't going to be satisfied. So it's a very hard task of trying to make sure everything is balanced. And that's why I always say when you go to a show like an ASD Market Week, you get to meet people like Danny and his team, and they'll guide you. They're going to say, where are you located? What kind of store do you have? Here's what's trending on our side that we think would be equally beneficial for your group to sell. So talk to us a little bit. You're heading out to ASD Market Week this August. What is it that you tell your team is priority one when they are taking on new clients as well as saying hello to current clients?
Yeah, well, I think you gave me a great lead in there about trying to guide people. We work really hard to be as transparent with customers as we can. And whether that's a new customer or an existing customer, not every item we sell is great. We've bought deals that we thought were going to be great and they weren't great. And the good news is for us is we have avenues to move those items outside of our regular retail channels, because the worst thing we can do is get an order from a customer where merchandise doesn't sell well. That's our worst case scenario. Okay, even if we could kid ourselves and say, oh yeah, but we got rid of that thing we wanted to get rid of, we didn't build a relationship. So the reason we have customers that we've been selling to for 20 years, 30 years, is that if we have an item that's great, we're going to tell them it's great. If we have an item they don't want, we're going to tell them they don't want it, because customers also will remember the bad item a lot longer than the good item. Because the good item sold and it's gone. The bad item, you walk by it over and over and over again. Where did I buy that? Oh, I bought that from Kole. And it sticks in your mind. So we don't want that. So all of our team works really hard to be really transparent with people. We do really try to guide people. If people walk up and say, in our pet category, what are your best items? We have the ability to show them what our best items are. We have the ability to break it down and show them what the best toys are, what the best leashes are, what the best cat toys are. So you try to work to be a source of valuable information for our customers. We don't know everything, but having done this a long time, we know there are certain areas that things aren't going to do well. And if a buyer there was a buyer in our showroom today that was from an area that's very cold. They were looking at an item and I said, are you sure you want that? By the time you get it, weather's going to probably be turning. And she said, oh, that's a good point. I'll pass on it.
Oh.
Now I wanted to sell the item, but I don't want her to get it and have it stuck on her shelves for 5 months until spring. So that's really the mentality that we go in with, and whether it's my company or any company that a buyer talks to at ASD right now, I would just remind every buyer that right now is really an opportunity for the independent operator. And again, I want to be clear, I'm not talking about a one-store person. I'm talking about people that have the ability to move and groove and make changes quickly. right now is an opportunity to really differentiate yourself in the market, because a lot of the big box retailers, mark my words, are going to have empty shelves come holiday time. And by being really aware of that going into ASD and after ASD, and buying from the mentality of, I'm not going to let my shelves be empty. I'm not going to have the same amount of variety. I want to have more variety. Maybe I'm going to work closer on margins because I want to have great deals. Again, that's an advantage that an independent operator has that a Target doesn't have, a Walmart doesn't have. They literally cannot do it. No matter how good their systems are, how smart they are, they're like a giant cruise ship. They don't get to just turn and come into the dock.
Yeah.
They've got to plan 5 miles before what they're going to do to line up properly. So I would just say for people to keep thinking of it from that perspective.
The fact that you said nobody wants stagnant inventory I love that you said that. I've bought a few furniture items at this house, and it haunts me to this day because I have to look at it every day. And I probably will never go to that same store that I went that I thought I was getting such a good deal on, but it irks me every single day.
Yeah, I get it.
But the fact that you're willing to say, you know what, this one's not for you, hard pass. Let's get something that's more appropriate because we want you to be successful and we want you to say, oh, it's all gone. And now I need more items because you want them to sell things because then they're going to come back to you. And that is the art of having a good team that understands that this is our mission. We are there to guide and give support and to be honest about the product that we sell. So that's why I always say, tried and true. There's a reason you've been with us for a long time. There's a reason why so many companies talk about you in our space. So I love that aspect, and I like that you're all in on it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it might sound a little hokey, but the truth is, our customers as well as our vendors are our partners. And, would you want to make a deal with a partner that wasn't good for your partner? The answer is no. That would be bad business. So if I had a business partner, I wouldn't try to give them a bunch of stuff that wasn't going to work for them. I'd want to give them things that were going to do well for them. And I think that's a value that we've held, near and dear to our hearts for a long time. And I do think it is why if we're not perfect, but I think if you speak to most people, they have good things to say about us. And there's other companies at ASD that are similar. There's a lot of good companies that really try to do right by their customers. I think it's a reason that your show has persevered for so long, because on the buying and the selling side, people realize there's good things that happen there.
I try to tell clients all the time, there is a cost to not attending a market like an ASD Market Week. And that is, you might not have the inventory, you might not be quite ready to purchase, but by not being relevant and at the show and hearing the conversations and actually seeing opportunity buys where it might change the whole demographics of your success rate for the rest of the year, it's very detrimental. So I always encourage everyone, reach out, talk to us, but come out to the show because you learn everything that you need about your business and then some. And really, the community comes together to solve pain points. So in a current economy, with what we're looking at, there's a lot of pain points, but that's okay because you've all been through it before and probably worse with previous things that have taken place within this space.
We've certainly been through lots of battles. Each one probably felt like it was going to be the worst thing ever. And each one of them, through it, came opportunity. Thankfully, that's, something that we've really focused on even this year. We've reminded ourselves, this too shall pass. And I think it really has been, again, it hasn't been fun, but it has been something that's forced us to really look at everything that we're doing. And I genuinely believe we will come out of it the better. And I think there's a lot of people will probably feel the same. I think a year from now, people that will look back and say, I didn't know how I was going to get through it, but by looking at my business and making sound decisions that are now in place going forward, there's a lot of value there. So that's, I would stick with that mantra.
Well said, and I should end the conversation on that note, but I got to get into Danny's deal of the week. You've been doing some fun stuff on social, and it's very exciting. I told you it's one of my highlights of the week. You've gotten creative. What made you and your team decide to have a little fun, get on social, and just highlight one or two great deals for your buyers to take a look at? What's the story behind that?
I've it's a great question. I've always joked that I had a face made for radio, and it was I was kind of pushed a little bit by a couple people here that it would be fun to do. I'm a good sport. I don't mind making fun of myself, and it's been a really fun way for even most of the people here in the company to try to just come up with fun ideas. I think everybody gets a kick out of them when they see them. They're a combination of somewhat serious to completely goofy. And we definitely recognize that completely goofy gets a lot more attention than somewhat serious. But it really, I think to answer your question, really honestly, it kind of goes back to what we were saying about looking at everything we were doing and how do we do things differently. And this is something we started doing over the last few months. And it was because we felt we needed another touch point with customers. We wanted another avenue for people to see who we are. And people have said to me, what do you get out of them? Do you know what they've produced? And my answer is, I don't know what they're producing, but I can also tell you that when someone buys a Super Bowl ad for Doritos, they don't instantly know what they get out of that either. It's not like people watch the commercial and run to their car and run out and buy Doritos. So my hope is that when we are at the ASD show, there might be a few more people that walk by and say, Kole Imports and Closeouts, I've been seeing their stuff on social media. Let's go by and see what they have. And I think it's really just a matter of putting ourselves out there, trying to create some excitement, some fun, not make it so serious, but make it so that people realize we are out there. And I think by getting our name out there more, I think, I don't think there's a negative. I think it's just positives that will hopefully come from it. So yeah, every Monday morning, Danny's deals are out there. I like that I occasionally get a laughing face from you. And I know you're laughing at me, not with me, and that's okay. But no, they've been really fun, and there are some really great deals. So that creates some excitement as well.
It also does something in a land of AI overabundance, right? It gives you personality and voice, and really, I think, humanizes your team and you and your products, and it makes it raw and real. So that's one of the main reasons I enjoy. I also love the slippers and the blow up pool and all that kind of stuff, but it's a fun way. And you approach it where you've got this as a lighter side of brand exposure, but then you also have your curated newsletter where you say, here's a list of all the deals that we have going. There's a sense of urgency of if you don't see this next week, it's because it got sold probably to your competitors. So it's a great balance, what you are doing. You've got the face-to-face, you've got your marketing efforts, you've got the playful side. And I think that that's a great approach to do business in today's world.
Well, thank you. I feel a little bit upset that you didn't mention my Bob Ross impression, because that was one of my favorites. And we were able to use one of our Halloween wigs while we filmed it. So that was a double plus. But now there'll be a new one coming out next Monday. And we actually filmed one at ASD in March. And we will do it again in August. And, we just try to keep it fun. I mean, this show, again, we're going to have our wheel of cash in our booth. Every customer that comes in and places an order gets to spin the wheel, and it's not maybe you win, everybody wins. So it's kind of it's really what we try to do here in general. We're really serious about doing what we do right, and we're also serious about having fun while we do it. So that's really probably the reason Danny's deals came along.
Yeah. We enjoy it. We love it. And for all of you listening, Kole Imports and Closeouts, they're one of the first booths when you go into the South Lower Hall. I'm going to put every detail in the stats below. But Danny, we appreciate your insights, your guide, and just being a part of this community. So thanks for jumping on today.
Of course, always great to see you, Stephanie, and I'll see you in person in a couple weeks.
Thank you for joining us. We want you to be a part of the show, so let us know who you want to see and what stories you want to hear. Leave us a comment and make sure you like and subscribe.